Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your goodness, your mercy, and your grace, and all the blessings of life, Lord, for health and strength, the ability to be here, Lord. We just ask that as we meet tonight, that you give us wisdom, God, that you give us discernment as we do the business of this county, Lord. We just ask for your guidance and your support. We do lift up this county, all of our people, Lord, all the peoples around us, our state and our nation, Lord, that you just place your hand of healing upon us, God. We just thank you for being with us, and guiding and directing us. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment. We will call the Swain County Board of Commissioners regular session to order this May 14th, 2020 at 6 o'clock. Gunner, if you would, please.
Please face the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, sir. We now call the meeting to order. The second item on the agenda is the adjustment of the agenda. And Mr. Manager, do you have?
Yes, we have Chief Sneed here with EBCI, and we have under new business A, a request from EBCI Chief Sneed for support of lawsuit with Department of Interior. So I recommend that y'all move that to the first of the agenda.
Okay, we've got a request to move that to the top of the agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to move to the top.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to move the number A under new business up to the top of the agenda. All those in favor, please manifest by raising your right hand. Okay, carried unanimously. So we have done that. So Principal Chief Richard Sneed, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here before you tonight. I come before you tonight to seek support of Swain County Commissioners. And first, I want to thank you for your support previously with the resolution that was passed. That was really in the first phase of this issue with the Catawba Indian Nation trying to come into North Carolina solely for the purpose of gaming. That was a bill that had been introduced to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs by Senator Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, a move which we opposed adamantly on legal grounds that there's a process for Indian gaming to take place under the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which was passed in 1988. There is a section of that law, that federal statute, Section 20, that provides a process for tribes to follow should they seek to take land into trust for the purpose of gaming. The issue that we took with it was that the bill essentially bypassed the process completely. Furthermore, the Catawba Indian Nation is a tribe, and it gets a little bit complex, so I'll try to keep it as high level as possible. They're a tribe that was terminated during termination era. They sought federal recognition again. They settled a lawsuit. They sued the federal government, settled that lawsuit in 1993. The Catawba Settlement Act, which is available online, it's a pretty short read. It's very concise in its language, as you would expect a legal settlement to be. In that legal settlement, they agreed to a cash settlement, which I believe was $53 million, 1,000 acres of land into trust. Unlike the Eastern Band and many other federally recognized tribes, they agreed to have all of their trust land fall into their jurisdiction under the state of South Carolina. There are other tribes that have opted to go that route as well. Of course, we did not, so our land is subject to federal jurisdiction. Also in that settlement agreement, they agreed that they would not be eligible for gaming under Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. They also agreed that any gaming that did take place on their trust land would have to be negotiated with the state of South Carolina. Further, any land taken into trust for the Catawba Nation would be subject to South Carolina law. When we opposed the legislation that was introduced by Senator Graham, and effectively it has moved nowhere, out of nowhere came this move from the Department of Interior to take land into trust in North Carolina once again bypassing Section 20 of IGRA. As I mentioned, in their settlement agreement, it says they're not eligible to game under IGRA. And in this move by the Department of Interior, they're taking the land into trust for the purpose of gaming, and they are saying they're now eligible to do gaming under IGRA. We have filed suit in federal court in D.C., which is making its way through the process there. We are seeking support from Governor Cooper, from the Attorney General Josh Stein. We're seeking support from members of the House and Senate in North Carolina. Unfortunately, there's a lot of politics goes on at the federal level, so neither North Carolina senator is in support of our position, which is strange. One of the things that I've said repeatedly when I've had opportunities to speak to our friends and neighbors in the region is that what the region needs to understand is what happens to the Eastern Band happens to Western North Carolina. Our economies are inextricably connected. As you all are probably well aware, we are the largest employer west of Asheville. We employ over 4,000 people between our two properties, not to mention quite a few more folks at our hospital, the tribal government, the school system, and the Boys Club as well. All of those entities are directly funded by gaming revenue. And so the opportunities that we've been able to bring not only to our own people but to the region through employment opportunities, through the amount of revenue that goes into the surrounding counties, through wages, salary, and fringe every pay period, through sales tax on money spent at retail in the surrounding counties is a very large number. And so I seek the support of Swain County in asking that another resolution be passed, asking that the governor weigh in on the legal issue of this, and also that the Attorney General do so as well. And another perspective to consider is this is a direct assault on the sovereignty of the state of North Carolina, in that the federal government has sought to move this tribe from one state to another state for the sole purpose of gaming with absolutely no consultation with the state of North Carolina. So with that, I'll open the floor for any questions.
Go ahead. Sure.
Do you have a resolution or
I can.
that you have drawn out? Do you have one with you?
I can probably have one here in about 5 minutes. I was talking to my attorney earlier in the day, and he had what he had suggested was that he was reviewing the previous resolution that was passed by Swain County, and that we could make some amendments to it, and then just present that as another resolution. So, short answer, yes, we can do that.
Excuse me, Chief. One of the things that we attempted to address in our resolution was the actual number of people from Swain County proper, not off the reservation, but for Swain County. And if I recall, and I'm trying to recall, as I was sitting here, I think it was over 700 and something, that if whatever cut the Cherokee Casino had to take would be a reduction in people, and the reduction in people would probably come from our community. Do you have any idea, as you're speaking, what the numbers are for Jackson County?
I don't know what the number is for the number of employees. As far as the projected revenue loss, we're looking at well over $100 million annual reduction in revenue. So it would be a year-over-year loss of at least $100 million. 30 to 33% of our customer base comes out of the Charlotte market. So where they're proposing it, it's a 25, 30-minute drive from downtown Charlotte. So it would be a substantial hit. And all things considered, we obviously wouldn't be opposed to this if everything was being done in a legitimate and legal manner. The process is there for the protection of all tribes. The fact that this is being allowed to occur, we feel also will turn Indian gaming on its head, literally, that there will be new precedent for other tribes to want to move into other jurisdictions. And again, the process is there for a purpose. It's certainly been politicized from our perspective. The fact that this happened, we were, and I personally was with the Department of Interior just back in February. We met specifically on the issues, on the concerns that we had on this issue, and we were told by DOI officials that they didn't see a path forward necessarily, that there were all these other hurdles, and then literally within 3 weeks of that meeting, out of nowhere, the land was being, we're going to take this land into trust. So it's been very, and when you think about dealing with the Department of Interior and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, anything moving quickly there that's a non sequitur. So if something moved quickly, there's clearly political pressure coming to bear on that issue.
The land itself, Chief, do you know where that came from, the land for the Catawba tribe?
So the land itself, when they initially made their application for land into trust, trying to go through the process, they didn't even own the land at that point. They had an option on the land. It's just 16 acres. And their application was denied because when that application is put in, you have to disclose what the land is going to be taken into trust for. When they said it was going to be taken into trust for gaming, it went all the way to D.C. and it was rejected, saying that they have no land claim in North Carolina. So when they tried to go through the process, they were rejected. Then the bill came after that, so they tried the political angle. That was halted, and then now this 5-page legal opinion from the solicitor's office, jumping through all these hoops and over hurdles to make it so, is the opinion that they're going off of, which we feel very confident based on the merits of our case that we'll be successful. However, with as much support as we can muster on the front end of that legal decision is certainly going to be helpful.
I was asked, and I don't know, Chief, perhaps you do, what was the status or the state of the Committee on Indian Affairs?
As far as the bill goes?
Yeah.
So on the bill, it didn't move. So there was a hearing. I was present at the hearing. I was not allowed to testify. So there's an unprecedented move there as well. So Senator Lindsey Graham, who is one of the most powerful senators in the Senate, left the Mueller hearings to come to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs to testify, and made several comments about how the original intent of that settlement act was that they could take land into trust. Now it's a legal settlement document. If it was Congress's intent for them to be able to take land into trust into other states, it would have been expressed in the settlement agreement. And so there's been this narrative from the beginning, kind of this mantra that, well, it was Congress's intent all along from back in 1993 that they should be able to take land into trust in North Carolina. Their rationale behind that is they say, well, they have a service area. They have a 6-county service area with several counties in North Carolina included. Well, we have a 5-county service area, but that doesn't mean we can go stand up casinos at will simply because it's a service area. The service area simply counts Native Americans within a particular community for IHS funding. That's all that's for, and that's part of their argument as well.
So they're kind of mixing apples and oranges here.
Yes, sir.
Fairly freely, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions?
Yes, the state representatives, what is have they talked to you?
Yes, sir. So on the first, well, I guess that would have been the second attempt, because the first was the application process, which we had no problem with the application process. That's what it's there for. But when the bill from Senator Graham came in, I think we had 45 of 50 state senators signed a letter opposing it. A majority of the House members signed a letter opposing it. Of course, the conflict is Speaker of the House Moore. It's actually his district, and actually his law firm used to actually represent the Catawbas. So he's definitely in support of it. Majority of the House is not. Majority of the Senate is not.
But our representatives from here aren't on your side, or are they on your
So far, I've reached out to Joe Sam Queen.
Jim Davis.
Was it?
Jim Davis.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to him yet on this since this one's come up. I've spoken to about 3 or 4 of the House reps, and I've reached out to one other senator. It's the one that's going out. What is her name? Van Dyne from Buncombe delegation, essentially, who I've reached out to so far on this. But so far, I've only spoken to 2, and they're both in support of our position. Yes, sir.
They should be.
Yeah.
It seems to me like they would be very frustrated with the federal government trying to push this through.
Well, it's my hope from the outset and from the beginning of this. I was a bit dismayed at the governor's really non-committal on it. And it is what it is. It's an election year. They need votes. And unfortunately for us in Western North Carolina, if you spend any time in Raleigh at all, it's rare to get visitation past Asheville. From the governor, from lieutenant governor, from any of the heavy hitters on the congressional side as far as at the federal level. Once you get to Asheville, everything kind of stops. And I think if you combine the number of votes that exist in Shelby County or Cleveland County where this is being proposed, that there's probably more votes there than all of Western North Carolina combined. So my personal feel is that we're being sold out for political purposes. And again, we understand that looking at the big picture, that because of the investment that the Eastern Band has made in our gaming enterprises, both in Cherokee County and here in Swain County, or rather in Jackson County, that we've essentially helped to stabilize the unemployment. Cherokee County is a great study in that, where prior to the casino opening, it was not uncommon to see in the off-season unemployment rise to double digits, 12 and 13%. Since the casino's been open, it's stabilized at 5% year-round. That's significant. So again, it's not just this is happening to the Eastern Band. What happens to us is happening to this region.
Would it benefit if we as a group reach out individually also to some of the representatives with that?
Absolutely,
Yep.
yeah. The more voices, and again, the timing of this couldn't be worse, because with COVID and everything being shut down, things are just kind of moving along behind the scenes with very little opposition, because we don't have the opportunity necessarily to come together and to be vocal. And certainly it's very difficult to get face-to-face meetings as well. So any sort of correspondence from the governor to the attorney general and House representatives and representatives of the House, and also from the state Senate, all would be very meaningful.
Chief, if I can ask this, and if you can answer it, great. Why are you thinking that the administration is not, North Carolina governor is not a part of this?
As far as
you said political, and I understand that, but this is much larger than that.
he's been very non-committal, and not just recently. I mean, I've met with the governor on multiple occasions on this, and he's just been non-committal on it. Essentially, the only answer that I ever got was, well, let me remind you, Chief, I was the first elected official to come out against this when I was Attorney General. I'm like, well, that's great. You're the governor now. What's your position now? I'll get back to you on that. I've got more questions. Okay. The last time we spoke, we had a phone conference about a week and a half ago, and that was at that time he at least had questions. He wanted to know where Kings Mountain City Council was as far as their position on it, which I've been speaking with one of the city council members there. He says they have a 5-2 majority who oppose it. So it's at least encouraging that he is asking questions about what the local opinion is of it. But as far as making any sort of commitment to, yes, I'll weigh in, no, I'm not going to, or even at least have a conversation with the Attorney General on the legal merits of the case to weigh in on it, because it certainly affects North Carolina. This is an overreach of the federal government in a major way.
It would appear to me that the governor would just be opposed to the overreach.
Agreed. Just on the sovereignty issue alone.
I noted that when you first started speaking, you said it's only 16 acres. Well, 16 acres today. What's
Right.
it going to be the next time if this is successful?
Well, and you bring up a very good point, Mr. Chairman, is that once they're established, once that footprint is established, then it's just a matter of, well, how much more land are we going to buy? Will they buy up and then take into trust and essentially grow another Indian reservation in North Carolina? That all began without the consent of the state, or without consultation with the state. Right.
Well, we thank you. Number one, we'll wait for the draft.
Yes, sir.
To take a look at it, and we want to follow your lead in that as much as we can. And we'll take a look at the other one that we passed, just to make sure that we're kind of staying in line. When would you need this on your desk, Chief?
As quickly as possible. If I can get it to you this evening, yesterday. So I will remain in the chamber, and my attorney texted me right before I got up to speak, so I'll continue that consultation with him, and if I can get him to send me a draft right now, I can have it to you this evening.
Okay, very
well.
good. We appreciate that very
Thank you.
much. Thank you. I really think, and I'm going to speak for the board, and they can disagree with me if they do, but I really think that there's a lot of things that's tied to this that has nothing to do with the characters involved in the play. But there's just a lot of other stuff And when you have North Carolina senators who are not supporting North Carolina constituents, that's very troubling to me.
Indeed, indeed.
And so that's beyond the gaming issue. I mean, I don't care if you agree with the gaming issue or don't agree with the gaming issue. You are a citizen of North Carolina, and now you can't even trust your senators to stand up for you.
Agreed.
So, and before I get myself into trouble, I will let you go with anything else. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We'll be here, I'm sure, so. Okay, moving down to number 3 on the agenda, administrative reports, budget amendment, tax collector's report. Peggy, you're going to be
delivering both of those reports.
Okay, go ahead.
So first, in front of you, you have the tax collection report. That should be $5,725,015.36 as far as the total receivable. Year-to-date, $5,356,295.89 in ad valorem taxes. Total monthly collected year-to-date, $70,042.93. Total collected year-to-date is $6,412,129.54. We've collected approximately, we have .07 left to collect before June 30th. And the budgeted received, $5,525,000. We've collected 96.95%. Vehicles for the month, $31,770.57. That's through the DMV office. Year-to-date is $299,340.10. Year-to-date total collected for the tax office is $187.22. And the waste fee collected for the month, $8,146.07. Waste fee collected year-to-date, $716,328.48.
Questions on that report? I'm saddened to hear my first reading of this was very pleasing, but that first number is impressive. Any questions? If you want to accept this report as read, please, let's do so with a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion, we accept the report as read.
We have a motion to accept the report as read and given. And we have a second. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All of those in favor, please manifest by raising your right hand. Okay, the finance report.
I'm also presenting that report.
Okay.
Total revenues for the month is $924,126.14. Total revenues year-to-date, $18,779,857.60. We've received approximately 28.40% of the revenue for this year. Expenditures year-to-date, expenditures for the month, $1,481,356.68. Total expenditures year-to-date, $14,986,583.58. We paid out approximately 42.87%. Current year surplus is $3,793,274.02. In the solid waste fund, revenues year-to-date, $936,598.94. Total expenditures year-to-date, $866,711.39. Surplus of $69,887.55. And the social service fund, revenues year-to-date, $2,013,266.87. Expenditure year-to-date, $3,033,735.08. Have a deficit of $1,020,468.21. And the health department fund, total revenues year-to-date, $1,079,813.86. Expenditures year-to-date is $1,309,441.49. A deficit of $229,627.63. If you go back up and look in the social service fund, we have, with all the COVID stuff going on, they're lagging on some of the reimbursements from the state, so we're not getting the state reimbursements. And if you look at the general fund surplus, we also have some additional loan proceeds that have come in early that we've not paid out yet. So that number is a little bit skewed as compared to last year. So we're probably around 2.2 million in the surplus rather than the 3.793 on the sheet. So.
During the COVID-19, I did not see anybody getting up, dumping their waste out by the, that was very busy. The guys were doing a good job out there, so. Questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept that report as read.
I'll make a motion to accept the report as read.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to accept this report as read. All those in favor manifest by raising your right hand. Good. Thank you. Budget amendment number 9.
Yes, and you don't have this on the screen, but budget amendment number 9 is for additional funds coming for the COVID-19 epidemic, pandemic. And so we're getting some money from the CARES Act. $482,000 is being passed to the county. Also, we're getting $40,000 for EMS because they're a billable Medicaid service. And also, the health department is getting around $90,000 for different COVID-related activities. So the total budget amendment is, for the general fund, is $522,000, and for the human services, the health component of human services, is $90,000.
Okay. Questions? No questions, then if you want to adopt the number 9 budget amendment, I need a motion and a second, please.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, we adopt budget number 9.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and second on the floor to accept and adopt the budget amendment number 9. All of those in favor, please raise your right hand. Carried unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda is the emergency team update. David. Okay. Thank you.
If you have any questions, David is available. Just an update on numbers. For CDC is reporting for the United States 1,364,061 positive cases, roughly 82,250 deaths. So the case fatality rate in the United States is roughly around 6.1%. 2 weeks ago when I presented on May the 3rd, I guess it's been about 2 weeks, was 5.9%. In North Carolina, there are 219,268 total tests, 16,507 positive tests, 615 deaths, 507 hospitalized. Case fatality rate is roughly 3.7%. Again, when I presented last time on the 3rd, it was 3.6%. So just to give you a little reference with North Carolina, in the last week in North Carolina, there have been approximately 48,000 tests completed, a little over 3,000 positives, and 108 deaths in the past week in North Carolina. In Swain County, we have done 925 tests. 773 are negative. We've had 6 positive cases and roughly around 146 pending cases or pending tests at this time.
I'm sorry, give me the pending number again.
146. we've been asked about questions about flu or influenza-associated deaths over the past years, so I looked that up today. From 2018 to 2019, there were 203 deaths associated with the flu. This year, from 19 to 20, there was 186. So there have been fewer deaths this past year. At this time, there is no recommendations from the emergency committee.
Okay. Just a quick question on the 203 flu deaths last year, and then the 186 this year. Is there a purpose? Is there a reason? Do we know what? Just that
No, sir.
Just that not enough people got sick to move us back up to our previous number.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, question?
Welcome. Any? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We move to item number 4, public comments. We have one person signed up for public comments, Elizabeth Brigham.
Thank you. My name's Elizabeth Brigham, and I'm a local attorney, but more importantly, I'm the proud grandparent of 2 children at West Elementary School, and that's part of the reason I'm here today. I want to express my deepest thanks to all the staff at our schools for going the extra mile during this pandemic. My husband, Joe Livingston, and I have had the privilege to act as teacher assistants during the time of homeschooling. One issue we saw immediately was the lack of adequate internet service in our county. We do have a MiFi that we've had for some time, and a MiFi is a service provided through our cell phone carrier, Verizon, and it works off of a cell phone service. The problem is, where our home is we have very poor phone service, cell service. And the only time we could receive internet through our MiFi was early in the morning, before 10 o'clock, and assuming the skies were clear. Every time there was a cloud in the sky, our service ability plummeted. And any time after 10 o'clock in the morning, it just wasn't possible. So as soon as we got the children at 8 o'clock every morning, we immediately began our schoolwork, went as fast as we could before our internet stopped working. And the other problem is our cell service is so poor at our house that only one computer could connect at any given time. Now, we had the privilege of being able to use my cell phone as an additional hotspot. Any work not done before 10 o'clock in the morning or during bad weather just didn't get done. FaceTime with the school teachers was just not possible. We had to gather the children together, drive into town to get a Wi-Fi signal so that FaceTime could take place. That FaceTime was probably the most important time for our grandkids. My purpose here today is to encourage you as the commissioners to expand high-speed, reliable internet service to our area. I'm not an expert on internet or internet connections. when I was young, there was no such thing as the internet. There is, as you know, the high-speed fiber optics line that's owned by Balsam West that serves our area. And all of our local providers, is my understanding that they use that line. It seems to me that we as a county and as you as a body politic could use your resources to expand that service into each of our homes. Now, they have begun residential service, and I know of at least one residence on Hospital Hill that has service, and it's very high-speed, fast, very good connection. COVID-19 is not going to go away anytime soon, and I'm trying to look for a solution between now and the next day that school is in session in August. While I hope and I pray the children will be able to return to school and go on a normal school calendar and day, I think we have to hope for the best but plan for the worst. Without reliable high-speed internet in every single home with school-age children, our children are going to fall behind. So my goal today was just to ask you as commissioners to spend whatever it takes to get our children connected to the internet, because when they get connected to the internet, they're going to be connected to their school and they're going to be connected to their teachers. The future of our county should include reliable, widely available, and affordable high-speed internet. It just seems to me, and I'm not an expert, but there's a lot of infrastructure out there already available that we could tap into to make it happen. And that's what I'm here for today.
Thank you. I have two questions for you. One, is that a written statement that you could share with us?
I didn't go by it, but it is written. You're welcome to have it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The second thing that I generally do not do when someone speaks, Danny, I want you to just talk with her for a moment about what we are doing and what we're trying to do to get internet in the county.
We've had a broadband committee. It's been working, we've been together for about 3 or 4 years. It's a difficult thing to do. Of course, there's a lot of promises, just like we know from coming out of Raleigh and down the governor's office, a lot of federal promises of all this money, and they're going to take care of rural areas. But as we all know, it's a little hard to get in this area. We do have a wireless provider now that's picking up a lot of Swain County.
And I know,
doing
and
well.
we've called him to our house, but we don't have a signal.
You can't get a signal. That's
can't get
part
a
of the
signal.
problem with the wireless. He's not going to be able to reach everybody. But now Zito is running cable.
Not to our area.
They won't run it. That's the problem. Frontier is
It's not reliable.
reliable. Of course, we all know about that. There are a couple of grants coming out right now. The state has $15 million designated in great grants. We have a couple providers here. Skywave and Zito Media is applying for that to try to cover a broader area. And one of the things Skywave is doing, he's trying to get into some equipment that'll help him get past having a direct view sometimes. But
Well, my question, tying in with Skyway, and again, I'm totally ignorant in this area, is I look around and I see all these high-power Duke Energy towers everywhere. And in my innocence, I think, why aren't we using them to relay signals to every part of our county? And I don't know the answer to that.
Chief, if you would, please.
So this is an issue we deal with all the time. So to answer some of your questions, certainly topography, line of sight. The biggest issue is, and we're part owner of Balsam West, the biggest issue is that there are not enough customers in the region to make it a sound business decision to deploy to offer coverage to everybody. So the grants that you're speaking of, Balsam has received some of those, and we're deploying in Graham County. There are Frontier, I think, and there's another group that's deploying in Graham County as well. Short of that, purely from a business model, we are too rural. There are not enough customers. So the fiber to the home, once the line is run, it's $60,000 a mile to run the fiber optic cable. It's $2,500 per household to run from the main fiber optic to the house. The number of customers that it would take to get an ROI on $60,000 a mile of fiber and $2,500 per household, there's nobody's going to do that. So it's short of getting grants or some benefactor who comes in and says, here's a large sum of money to help with this issue that you have. The tribe, we have the resources. We're deploying fiber in Graham County, both to locally and to residential. But I mean, we'll never get our money back on that, ever. You know, at $29 a month or $50 a month or $80 a month, we'll never get our money back on that. It's simply where we are now as in humanity at this point in history. I met with Graham County Commissioners on this one about a year ago, and it was very striking to me that all of the comments that were made by the commissioners, when I commented, I said, if this were a conversation we were having 30 years ago, 40 years, or 50 years ago, we would be talking about electricity, water, and sewer. Now we're talking about access to high-speed internet. But as far as from a corporation making that sort of commitment, there's just not enough customer base at this time to make that sort of investment.
That's why the Skywave is making some ground. Like I said, he can't reach everybody. And Zito, I keep getting the flyers from them, you know, they're talking about expanding, but what we're doing, we're working hard with what we have. We have a meeting and we're helping them get the grants that they're getting, but we've asked them all to come to the table. We have 2 providers that'll even show up to the table. We can't make anybody.
My concern is our kids, because my husband and I have enough resources to make it happen.
Right.
But how is a single mother with 3 or 4 children who can't get even cell service at her house, what is she supposed to do? Lug everybody in the car and come to town and try and teach them from the front seat? I mean, it's just, I'm so concerned about our kids.
Yeah, if we hadn't have had Zito and Skywave stepped up and set up some hotspots, we wouldn't have had, that was on their own.
Right, and I'm grateful for that.
And we're grateful for that, but without that, we'd have been in desperate need. But as far as the county funding, in that we can't fund with a provider. There's certain things that legislation's trying to go through where we can work with the provider, but we can't fund broadband as a county.
There's a state law that prohibits that.
So there's a lot of things. I think one of the bigger things we can do is everybody, all of our community can write letters to our representatives. You know, with that, I think it'll certainly help. We were just on a conference call day before yesterday on broadband about some of these grants that are coming through. And one of the suggestions from those guys is to continue to reach out to your representatives. Because it's just like we're talking, it's hard to get a voice from here to reach to Raleigh. It's hard to get a response back past Buncombe County. But there are smaller counties that are making headways, and the biggest headway that is going on is in the wireless providers, because they seem to be the only ones that are interested in the rural areas because of cost. It costs much less if you can hit a house with that than it does to run fiber. Mm-hmm. It's not probably can't get the speeds. You can get good speed. I have Skywave
Well,
at
I didn't
home,
know if it was possible to tag
internet.
off Duke Energy's towers, because they've got all these towers that, why can't we put the dishes up there that send the signals and relay it up to the furthest parts of our county? I don't even know if that's an option.
Yeah, I know.
I know there's different technologies and different technologies in the work. You know, technology changes every day. And so I know there's different studies about using the actual fiber, using the actual, I guess, electrical line for a high-speed internet connection. And so that's probably coming down the pike, but it's probably going to be, another 20 or 30 years before they develop that fully. As far as a telco working with a utility company, electric utility, that's all in probably the sector of the FCC. I'm not sure who handles that, but I'm sure there's some sort of a agreement that would have to take place. When they get on each other's lines now, like per pole, your telcos have to rent those poles for like $9 or $10 a month,
Right.
Each one of them. And so there would have to be a big agreement between these big conglomerates before that could happen. And I just don't know if that would happen, especially the high wire. The ones you're talking about, the transmission lines. So, but that we can make the ask. As far as the commission, we can definitely write a letter in support of looking at different alternatives and thinking outside the box.
Thank you.
None of the providers have gone that route about reaching out to them, but we certainly can see if that would be an option for them. One other thing on the broadband, I think, is there's a little bit of talk coming down the pipe about the low satellites now that are starting to be orbited. And some of the better talk about those is that that's going to help a lot of areas when they do get that in place. Cost-wise, I don't know what it would cost through those to have it, but I think that's going to be a little more accessible in the future than it is now. But
Is there a way to take through the school budget to help with some of that? If the
Well, I
county
just saw something came through, I was reading yesterday in one of the bills that was just passed, $30 million to go to schools to buy more hotspot space. So
there you
they're
go.
working with that. Now, I don't know how much of that our school system will
But,
get, but you can talk to Mark.
if the hotspots work off the cell
Yeah.
signal, that doesn't help our county in
No, but
particular.
they passed out a lot of free hotspot. I don't know how
They
that
did.
worked with cards
They
or
did,
whatever
but
they
here's some
had.
of the feedback that I got from some of the kids' parents or grandparents that I know is that it works off cell signal, and
So the
if you don't
signal's
get
not there
good cell
right, you're
signal,
not gonna
it
get it.
doesn't help.
I want to bring it back, attention back to where we were. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
in. As you can see, we're as frustrated with this as you are, and we've been working on it probably 6 years. So we're doing it, we're working at it, but we thank you for coming in, and if you will leave your
I'll get it to Cindy.
statement to Cindy, I would appreciate it very much.
All right.
Thank you very much now. Okay, let's move on down the agenda, number 5. We've got items for consideration, and the first one are the minutes from the regular sessions as well as the special sessions. And there's 7 sets of minutes. I'm going to make an assumption that you have read the minutes, and if there's any corrections or additions or subtractions that you would like to make, that you have those handy. I'm also going to make an assumption, unless you tell me otherwise, that we will work on all of these at the same time rather than breaking them up, since there's 7 of them. Any comments on any of those? If not, then item A under 5 is the minutes for those sessions, March 12th, March 23rd, March 27th, March 30th, April 7th, April 9th, April 16th. 2 regular sessions in there, and the rest were special sessions. You've looked at the minutes. What is your pleasure, commissioners?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes in that order.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as they've been given to you.
Second.
And we've got a second on the table. So we have a motion and a second on the table to accept all of the minutes that have been provided to us and that we've had time to read. Any other discussion? If not, then those who want to approve the minutes, please manifest it raising your right hand. Okay, and it is passed unanimously. The child fertility report, where'd she go?
Hi. I have the Child Fatality Prevention Team Annual Report. The local child fatality team is made up of different agencies in the community: law enforcement, guardian ad litem, health department, social services. And we basically get reports of child deaths from the state, and we review those medical records and other records related to circumstances in the family, and any medical condition that may have contributed to the child's death, and try to figure out if there are system problems that could have helped those circumstances. In 2019, we reviewed 4 child deaths, and we did not find any major recommendations. Basically, it was just to continue our efforts related to infant mortality reduction and collaboration among the agencies to coordinate resources for the families.
Do you need anything from us besides just accepting your report?
Not unless you have any questions.
Okay, any questions? If no questions, then I make a motion, or that I would ask for a motion just to accept the report as was given today.
I make a motion, we accept the report as given.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second? And we have a second, a motion and a second on the floor, just to accept this report as was given to us today on the Swain County child fatalities. Any other questions? Any other thing? If not, then those wanting to approve, manifest by raising your right hand, please. And we did that unanimously. Thank you very much.
I also have the communicable disease report.
Oh, okay. All right, keep going. I didn't know you had those, so.
For 2019, you have the communicable disease report for Swain, and it's pretty much the same as it was the year before as far as consistency. A couple things I'll mention: sexually transmitted infections. Gonorrhea cases have decreased this past year from the year before, from 50 to 37. Chlamydia slightly increased from 117 to 125. The highest number of cases were in the 20 to 24-year-old age group, with 15 to 19-year-olds being second. We're continuing to try to do community education and outreach, messaging related to reproductive health to help with that. The other thing on the report that you may notice is that it looks like our chronic hepatitis C numbers are dramatically increased, but I stated last year that the state changed the way that that's reported. So it looks like a big increase, but really it just wasn't reported as well before. So those are kind of gradually flowing in. So we'll continue to see more of those show up.
May I just ask you what the change in reporting was that caused it to do that? What was the change?
For hepatitis C, before, only acute cases, so new ones were reported. Now any hepatitis is reported, and so those chronic ones. In the report that we used to do, we just reported the ones we came across locally.
Okay.
But now that the state's doing it, it looks a little different.
Okay, before I move on, like I did a moment ago, do you have any other thing that you're going to report on? That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
We're going to put the fees, review of the fees off until July when she does the policies.
Okay. Okay. And I think Allison, she's behind you, but somewhere, thought I saw her. You were going to ask that we table the fees issue? Okay, until July. So that's a request of us. Is everybody comfortable with moving that up to July? We'll do it by acclamation. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, the juvenile group, say that fast 5 times. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Okay, I guess that's you, so.
So I think what you have in front of you is the funding plan for 2021. Total available funds is $80,389. It's split currently between the JCPC administration, which is $3,077, Pace Setters, which is an outdoor program, $42,235, Mountain Mediation Services, which is a counseling program, $16,225. And then you'll have a remainder there, I think somewhere around $24,000 is remaining, with some discretionary funding. Currently, our residential program, Hawthorne Heights, is currently out of business. And so they're reorganizing underneath another nonprofit. And so the JCPC Council is going back out for the RFP process in, I think, June the 1st. And we'll be holding that open for 60 days and then awarding that money later on in the summer. So we'll have another one of these funding plans come up in August to allocate those monies to the new service provider.
The reallocation of services to a new service provider keeps
Correct.
the facility in Swain County?
Yes, the current facility is in Swain County, and the new service provider has worked out the leases with the previous one.
Okay.
And so they're just waiting on their 501c3 status and also state, I guess, licensure to get it going, so.
Okay, is that it with that? Any questions on that? The Juvenile Crime Prevention Council? Okay. Without objection, we will accept that report. Does anybody have a question? Okay. The annual fire agreement?
If we can have a vote on that one, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
On the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council funding, we need an actual vote.
Okay, we need an actual vote. We'll
Yes.
see whenever I figure we're moving forward, let's move.
No problem.
Okay, so on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, we do need a vote. We need a motion and a second. I will entertain those at this point.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
And we have a second on the floor. All those in favor of the report as well as what they're going to be doing, we don't have a problem with it. Please raise your right hand. Passed unanimously. Okay, now, we're ready to move to the, okay.
So the next item is the annual agreement with the town of Bronson City. We contract with the town to provide service for the Tuckasegee Fire District, which is outside the city limit. The total is $40,000. It is not increasing. This particular agreement is only for 1 year. I think we had discussed earlier about doing a 3-year agreement, but this particular one is a 1-year agreement, and maybe for next year we can do another 3. But that's what's been proposed. I think that the town's already voted on this and approved it at their session, so they're just asking for approval from y'all.
And a quick glance gives the dates from first day of July 2020 to 30th day of June 21. Any questions on that? Anyone? If you're in favor of this, I will entertain a motion to accept it.
I'll make a motion to accept this agreement.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor regarding the agreement with the town of Bryson City. If you're in favor, please raise your right hand. Passed unanimously. Okay, good. You want to just talk about this in your report?
Yeah, I can. Yes, sir.
Okay, why don't you do that, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
So first is item number D in your new business is Largo Community Center request. Let me back up and talk about budget amendment number 9 and $482,000 from the state. So June the 1st, we have to come up with a full plan on how we have to utilize that money, and we have until December 31st to spend it. So it can be anything that's accrued between March the 27th of 2020 until December 31st of 2020. And so, talking about the Largo Community Center, we've, as an emergency team, have talked about utilizing some money for outreach programs and specifically testing in each individual community. So we want to lease maybe some time at the Largo Community Center to do some testing there, also look in the Whittier area and the Almond area. So as far as space needs. So that's one thing I would suggest. Number D is first be tabled because we'll work out another arrangement for that to utilize their building for those services. As far as the other things, we've got different, that's a big chunk of money, and so we're going to be doing a lot of things with salary, what we've used thus far, plus also looking at FEMA dollars as well. So we'll come back with a better idea as far as the budget for those monies later on in this month, probably at the work session, just to give you all a thought process as far as going forward with it. As far as my report goes, of course, we've met a lot, at different times in the last few weeks with the COVID issues. One thing we're talking about is moving forward, reopening, how we're going to do certain things that we're required to do, such as court proceedings and things like that. So, and keeping our employees safe and the other public that are utilizing those buildings. So we're going to be doing, hiring some folks to do temperature checks and things like that at the courthouse during court days, to try to keep as many people, try to keep it as safe as possible. If they are running a fever, we're asking them we'll have a set of guidelines that they'll have to go to their primary care physician and get checked out before they'll be admitted back into the proceedings.
In taking the temperature, do you have the equipment you need to do that?
Through this process, we're getting the equipment needed. And that'll be all a part of this money. So we'll be able to purchase any equipment needed, both PPE equipment and thermometers or anything we need, tents, whatever. So.
When do you anticipate being able to move on this and being able to move forward? June
the 1st is their anticipated date, and we're going to run it for about a month and a half. Right now, court is in session, and they are doing the 10-person rule. I think in district court, and I think the sheriff's here, and he may want to comment on the Superior Court, but at least as far as district court, they're doing a 10-person per room. But I think as it ramps up, we're going to need to be more prepared as far as people coming into the courthouse, and we just want to keep, the other side of the hallway is the other services we offer to the public. We just want to make sure everybody that's coming in the building is going to be not carrying the virus into the area and getting everybody else sick. So we're going to come up with different policies and things like that. But we thought about, everybody comes in, give them a mask, but there's just not enough masks to do that because, sometimes on court days, especially like traffic court and things like that, you're looking 200 or 300 people a day. So that's a significant amount of money. So that's all on that part. The other things I have are, we've got the different projects going on. The high school project, we have a meeting next week to talk about, to do a walkthrough actually. I think next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. So if y'all would like to attend, just put it on your calendar. We'll walk through them. I think they're in the 60 to 70% complete bracket at this point. So they're moving along. And then also, we're going to be meeting with the architects on the courthouse renovation at 9 over at the courthouse, which we talked about that earlier last month. And then after that, we'll be talking about the animal shelter project, just to take them out to the site and see what it's going to look like. So all is going to happen on the same day next Wednesday.
Okay.
So. And at this point, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. At the museum, you were talking about the paving behind the museum. When will that happen?
That will not happen till the end of summer. We have to wait on the compaction. We're afraid that if we do it too soon, you're going to have an issue. So we need to make sure that that's settled, and we don't need to refill or anything like that beforehand. So.
Right. Okay. Questions for the manager? Okay, very good. I don't know that we're going to have many commissioners' reports. Everybody's I hope, been sitting at home staying safe. But Roger, do you have anything to add?
Well, I have a couple of things, Mr. Chairman, just kind of some heads up and some FYIs, I guess. I'm on the Foursquare board, we're trying to, that's been done through emails. I mean, we're not meeting, so
Right.
that's the way that's done, as you alluded to there just a minute ago. Zoom has become a new word for all of us in the last little bit, Zoom meetings. Last year I didn't know what that was. 6 months ago I didn't know what that was. So we attended Zoom meeting on TDA meeting yesterday. And just some information that I received on the road work on 74, top of Hyatt Creek, on the road there, that project, they're hoping to be it done maybe by September, but it may be September, December on that project. That's a big project. Adams out of Graham County, Robbinsville, I think, is doing the work on that. They even have some special rock that they're putting in it that's called, it's almost like made rock. It's made like a pumice. It's a real light gravel, so to keep it from settling is bad. Mr. Siegel may know more about some of that stuff than I do, but it's very interesting where they're laying the pipe in, they're laying all the screens in, they're laying in retaining walls, they're laying in that special gravel. Anyway, that project is moving and ongoing, and maybe by fall, by Christmas, that road will be open. The last thing I just wanted to mention, the Give and Spoon, which again, I'm a member of that board, has gone to 2 nights a week, starting in May. Some of the information that I can share with you is the last 2 weeks of March, they went up to giving out 337 meals. April had 5 Thursdays in it, and that's when we were still just doing 1 meal a week, and they gave out 1,594 meals in those 5 weeks. And then in May, we started 2 times a week, so we've only really had 3 meals so far this month. We gave out 878 meals this month. So I think the numbers increased, and maybe because of the COVID that we're in, 19. I don't know all the answers why it went up, but the numbers are increasing, and that seems to be a need, or a food security need in our county that's being at least partly met with them. And I know there's a lot of other groups and organizations in our community that have been helping during this time, as well as our school system, which we continue to give a shout out to them for the work they did. And as the chief sits here, the help the tribe gives us to us for our school lunch programs and school food programs, and so we get a lot of help, and we're glad to get that in our community, Mr. Chairman. I guess that's all I have, sir.
Okay, now you said the meals, they're gonna add another meal, so that would be Thursday and Monday? Or
It's
is that-
Monday and Thursday, and right now of course, it's all takeout, of course. And so you come by us from 3 to 6 on Mondays and Thursdays
Okay, thank you very much.
at the Presbyterian Church. And we want to thank them as well for allowing an extra day in their kitchen to prepare the meals, so.
Okay, very good. Kenneth, do you have any?
I have no report.
Okay, thank you. Kenneth?
I attended the TDA also, just by phone conference. Didn't do video, had to work on some stuff while I was doing it, so didn't figure they needed to watch me do what I was doing. And attended the JCPC, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, this morning, which is what we've got here.
Good. Good, okay. Then,
I just had the broadband, as I've shared, the meeting we had with a couple of gentlemen that seemed interested in this area. One was Mr. Maddox, Rodney Maddox, who actually grew up here, went to school here. And their suggestions were to get some letters out to the Department of Information Technology and to our letters of support from our representatives in this to try to get some more money in this area for broadband. It's like we stated, it's a difficult. There's a lot of money out there being spent on it, but it's still nobody wants to tackle the rural areas.
well, we hear about all of this money, but when you go after it, it's not that easy to rope. So, okay. Do you have anything? Okay, well, I think my report is saying pitch in with everybody else, so we appreciate that. What do we need to do with the chief? Do we need to escort him out, or just?
Do you have the?
So let me pull this up, and I actually emailed it to you, Mr. Chairman. The language of the resolution, which I'll read to the chairman, focuses more on the casino developers who, this is a gentleman named Wallace Sheaves, who's been indicted previously in multiple states. He's the backer of the Catawba Nation in this for Skyboat Gaming. So essentially, if you want to start delving into deep, there's a lot of layers to this. He was actually the campaign finance manager for Lindsey Graham when he ran for president. So that's the connection to him and Lindsey Graham. So it's a very brief resolution, so if I may, with your permission, I'll read it. Whereas the U.S. Department of the Interior made a decision on March 4th, 2020 that authorizes a new casino near Charlotte for questionable South Carolina casino developers and an Indian tribe from South Carolina, the Catawba Nation. Whereas the same questionable casino developers funneled money to federal and state politicians, to political actors to get Washington, D.C. politicians to make this decision. And whereas the Department of the Interior did not adequately consider the significant economic impacts on Swain County and other governments in West North Carolina that benefit from cooperative agreements with the Eastern Cherokee Indians and significantly lower employment rates because of the Eastern Band. Whereas the state of North Carolina, including Governor Roy Cooper and Attorney General Josh Stein, should act to protect the interests of Swain County and stop this bad federal decision. Whereas the state of North Carolina should not allow shady, questionable developers that have been involved in the illegal video poker or sweepstakes industry into North Carolina. Resolve, Swain County calls on Governor Cooper, Attorney General Stein, and other elected and appointed officials in North Carolina to protect the interest of North Carolinians from the harmful decision of the U.S. Department of the Interior officials and those who politically influence them. So it's stark, concise, succinct.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I thank you for your consideration tonight, and I appreciate you moving to the top of the agenda. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you. Now, he should email that to you. How soon would it take you to have one drafted for us?
No time at all. If you want to go ahead and approve it based on the verbiage, and then I can get you a copy to sign.
Okay, okay. That's what we will do. If you feel comfortable accepting this, the verbiage, that's going to be changed just a little bit, but the supporting of the tribe in their move to stop the Catawba taking land and taking monies out of this area. Was that fair? Did I say that fair? But anyway, if you're in favor of that, I will entertain a motion and I will entertain a second before we move.
I make a motion we accept, or we
Okay, we've got a
adopt
motion.
that resolution.
We've got a motion on the floor for the resolution to support the tribe in their battle with whomever, our senators and the Catawbas. So I need a second if anyone wants to second.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor to adopt or to send a,
It would be actually, I think, joining the lawsuit.
joining in, okay, just so I get the wording correctly.
Yes.
Okay, so recognizing that we're not just passing a resolution, but we're actually doing an action step of joining in a particular lawsuit. Motion and second, want to change, or you want to stay?
Stay.
Okay. So all of those in favor of joining with the tribe in fighting this lawsuit, please manifest, raise your right hand, please. Passed unanimously, Chief. Thank you very much for coming in.
Appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Anyone have anything else?
We've got two other items on the agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Please.
Under new business, we've got the 2021 budget. We are still in the development stages of that. At the work session, I'll be bringing that to you. It's going to be a very similar to this year's budget. We're going to kind of back up with we don't necessarily want to do an interim because you do have to wait on setting a tax rate when you do that. So we're just going to have basically a reaffirmation of this year's budget and go through the process at that point, and then we'll work out, any raises or any capital projects that for next year that we've talked about. We'll do that during the year next year, and we'll do it just by budget amendments when y'all are ready to get that going, where we can get a better handle on what revenues we are going to be losing. And one of the biggest here, we won't know until middle of June what actually took place in April. There's no projections or nothing, so it's going to be very hard to really truly shoot the revenues at this point. The other thing on the agenda is the rec park discussion, and we wanted to kind of bring this up. Jim's here tonight as well to talk about the pool, talk about the day camp, how we're going to interact with folks that come to the facilities with the new restrictions and moving into phase 2 and phase 3 of the governor's plan. When that happens, how are we going to actually do that safely? So Jim's here to talk about that and kind of get your opinion in discussions as far as how we want to do that. We got to talking the other day about day camp, and it's going to be very hard to have day camp this year. There's a lot of different criteria coming down from the state. We think we've got a good plan, but we just want to bring you up to speed, and also the public, kind of what we've been doing behind the scenes. So, Jim?
Kevin and I tried to discuss some protocol, what we can do with kids and numbers, and waiting on the governor to say phase 2, or are we on the downside of phase 2, closer to phase 3, we can do it, that kind of thing. But and we talked about a date of June 15th, if that's possible, to kind of get us started with as far as camp. We've got about 70 folks that have paid for their kids to be there, so we were trying to do it where we can, trying to come up with a protocol with taking temperature and having the same staff people in 2 different groups with the same group all week, and talk to the school and the bus garage about moving kids back and forth to lunches and trying to get that breakfast and lunch, which we provide through the middle school cafeteria. But all of those folks are kind of on hold also. Middle school's not sure if they're going to do, middle school cafeteria is going to do summer meals, but they may just going to, and it's all Swain County kids, but they may just be going to do it to the kids that are go to summer school. And the ones that are going to provide for that, the ones that are just doing online instruction. Same way with the buses, trying to get a bus and only hauling so many kids at one time and having a 20-minute hold off on the next group of kids to get on the bus. And so there's quite a few things to be worked out. And Kevin and I have had multiple conversations about it, whether we try to have day camp or we try to refund all this money. I've had multiple phone calls about parents wanting the pool to open and wanting day camp, some for the kids do in the summertime on both ways. And we also talked about only allowing 25 at a time to the pool. You know, give people 25 people 2 hours to swim, and at the end of 2 hours, we don't know the exact details, but saying, listen, your 2 hours are up, I have 25 more people coming in. So all those are possibilities that we've talked about. But it's getting right down close to either we have day camp, and I've got about 12 people that are waiting on 14 people waiting on summer jobs. So.
Tell me, Jim, how do you intend to clean the water between classes?
Clean water? You mean
the water.
In the pool?
Yes.
Well, yeah, as much as it's chlorinated, there won't be any cleaning of water in the pool. We'll just rely on the same chlorination. And now
Okay.
bathrooms and tables and all that around the pool would go through a round of cleaning.
Okay, so you've been told that the chlorination that you now presently have in the water would be enough to deal with the COVID-19?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, barring some sick, because this has happened, kid gets sick and throws up in the pool, that kind of thing, barring
Sure.
something like that.
Sure.
But just swimming and in and out of the pool, that kind of thing, it's the chlorination that we have is enough.
The reason I'm asking that, Jim, is I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there wondering the same thing.
Yes.
So you think you have the steps in place if kids come in that they can be they can't be chlorinated, but they can be put through the program without any.
Well, we hope so. I sat down with Allison today about some things same things too, about kids coming and doing like a drive up, taking the kid's name, what is the kid's temperature. We're going to buy some of those infrared temperature takers that you just pointed their head.
Right.
Getting that started, letting that be the first thing. And if the kid's fine, having kids in separate groups with the same staff people, again, that's our, right this moment, what we've talked about. I don't have anything, but it's getting time. I got to let parents know what we can do and what we can't do, and that's kind of why I wanted you guys to kind of be in on it also.
Right. Is it possible and how would you post the protocol for the summer camps and the pool so that the parents could see them before they even
Well, we're
start?
going to contact them all by letter.
Okay.
In the next 7 days is my plan.
Great.
Between now and next Thursday.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we're also ordering a lot of equipment, like we're going to have some misters to spray down, all the stuff in between groups of people coming in the pool. We've not really worked out the pool part yet. It's still working on that. That's a whole different animal, so we don't know the criteria even in phase 2 or phase 3.
Right.
It is an outdoor area, but we still, in that close proximity, we need to take a lot of 6 feet apart, that sort of thing, different protocols. So we'll be working, Jim will be working heavily with Allison to come up with, and David both, to come up with some really good guidelines. And he's hopefully going to take best practice from the surrounding counties that have pools. And we'll try to just get the best thing going forward. This is new territory.
We've gone ahead and purchased 6 hand sanitizing stations. That would give 6 locations for the kids or anybody that's in and out of the rec department. Pavilions and playground, that kind of stuff. We just won't have them in place yet because we still have all that closed.
And you will have those in place by when, Jim?
Well, we're still waiting on phase two, which is a week from tomorrow to start. If everything goes good, and the governor says we're now going to move into phase two, it's a week from tomorrow. Between phase two and phase three, we're hoping we can, we already have the trails open.
Sure.
Ball fields, tennis courts, and trails. We hope we can move to the next step. It's going to be playgrounds and the pavilions open, but that's got to be between 2 and 3.
Okay. Anything else?
How many kids, Jim, do you have signed up, did you say?
70.
70 kids?
Yeah.
What, is that about the same number you generally
Yeah,
have?
yes. And we've probably got 20 on the waiting list.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You'll keep us updated on everything? Yes. Okay, anything else?
And then item D, I would just recommend that you table that. That was earlier, if you probably have to move on that.
Oh, I thought we did that, probably out of session, but anyway, okay. We need to table the Alarka community request because should be other monies coming in from FEMA.
Correct.
So do you want a motion on that, so that it's official?
Yeah.
Okay, we want to table the Alarka Community Center request. We think it's going to be handled in another funding source. So I will need a motion, please, to table that.
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion on the floor. Need a second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other questions or comments about this? If not, then all of those in favor of tabling this, let's show our right hands. Passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Anything else? If there is nothing else, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
And we have a motion on the floor to adjourn. I need a second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Probably no discussion, but all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, it seems like we're